Hey everybody, Ian Lee here. Hope y'all are doing well. In today's video, I'm going to talk about letting the song inform you. And what I mean by that is letting the song inform the decisions you might make in the practice room in terms of course, when you're playing as well, but when we're being a little more isolated and working on just a couple bars and coming up with phrases and new movements and new ideas all around these beautiful songs we love to play. And of course, letting the song inform you could be a very big subject. That can mean many different things. I'm going to specifically look at the melody. And we're going to be looking at body and soul, by the way. I'm going to be doing it in B flat because that's where it sits best for my voice. We're going to be looking at the melody against the chords, and I'll be thinking in terms of Barry Harris's scales of chords. And I have a very specific phrase I'm going to show you all at the end of the video that I came up with, but I want to kind of show my thinking around coming up with this phrase. And just how, one little idea or concept from the melody working against the chords or some other idea within the song itself can spark all kinds of creativity for you, depending on what you're working on, what you're trying to achieve and accomplish in your playing. Okay, it's something that I haven't always been great about, which is practicing through and over songs. So if that's not something you're already doing a lot of, I think we need a balance of practicing specific scale movements and ideas, etc., but also making sure we're applying these things to songs, right? Practice playing through and over songs. It's a great way to learn, because then you're using things that you are practicing things you're going to use in real time potentially. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in. We're looking at body and soul here. Let me just play the melody here really quick. Okay, so we're just looking at those first few bars right there. My heart is sad and lonely. That's all we're looking at today. Now, we have, in terms of the chords, we have a 2 minor 7, a flat 2 diminished, back 2 minor 7, 5, 1. Now, what I want to do, though, is pull back, and I want to look at this little movement here. This 2 minor 7 is actually part of one of Barry Harris's scales of chords. So, we know that C minor 7 is E flat 6, just in third inversion. Okay, the 6 is in the bass. Well, if this is 6 in the bass, then we always find a diminished chord on the flat 6 or sharp 5 of whatever scales of chords we're working on. Always, in any of the 4 scales, the major, the minor, the 7, the dominant 7, or the 7 flat 5 scales of chords. The sharp 5 or flat 6 always has the diminished on it. So here we're really just playing with the scales of chords. Isn't that cool? Just over that E flat 6. So we're going to start thinking this is E flat 6, just to put this all into that perspective. Now, let's look at the melody notes as either borrowed or inside one of those 2 chords, right? So if you're not familiar with the idea of borrowing, basically in the scales of chords, you could always be on one of these chords, and you can borrow from, if you're on the 6th chord, you can borrow from the diminished. If you're on the diminished, you can borrow from the 6th chord. And there's a lot of things that can do for you, and you can see chords you already know but in a different light and move them through the scale, etc. It's a whole series of videos borrowing, but I'm not going to get into the depths of it right now. So let's look at this melody. We have a C, which is inside of E flat 6. Now that D is inside of its diminished. Okay, that E flat is inside of E flat 6. So we have, now again, we have a melody note that's actually, it's a diminished note that exists inside that chord. Now that C right there exists inside of E flat 6, so it's a borrowed note on top of that diminished chord. And again, this G here exists inside of E flat 6, so there's just a little bit of borrowing going on, okay? Now, what I want to do is I want to let this idea of borrowing over those chords affect some of my decision making here as I invent some phrases and some ideas. So let's start by, okay, I'm going to move to this phrase that I've created now. I'm actually going to go ahead and play this in the lower part of the guitar. And I'm going to play this inversion here with the third in the bass. I'm going to play it like that, where I break it up. So I've got this interval here, and this is 6th and the 10th. Okay? And really what we have is 2 beats per chord, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So I'm going to do for that first chord, that E flat 6, I'm going to move it down here, and I'm going to go, so 1, 2. Now next we would go to that beautiful diminished chord. Okay, well I'm going to find that in the next closest inversion to where I am, which is this A flat. Beautiful thing about the diminished, right? Sorry? Went to a different diminished there for a second. So we have this A flat diminished. So I'm going to let that inform my next decision going into that. And I went ahead and picked this interval here. I can't remember why exactly, it's just what felt right. Now here's where I'm going to let the melody help me create some different ideas around this diminished chord. Since we get a borrowed note in the melody, right, this idea of a borrowed note over a chord, well, I'm going to play with some borrowing in this diminished chord. So I'm just going 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to play this B, okay, inside of that diminished, which already exists as part of the A flat diminished 7. But I am, at the end of this phrase, put a G over this diminished chord. And that G, again, is a part of E flat 6. So I'm just using the melody to let me kind of guide, like, oh, I could put a little borrowed note in there. Why not? The melody's doing it. Why can't I do it in a different capacity and just create my own little melody? And I'm playing with this idea of just doing, you know, leaving 2 voices existing at a time, but you could if you want. Look at what happens here. That's a G major triad existing over B flat or A flat diminished. Isn't that cool? So now we get this whole other thing that works in that context. I think it's just so much fun, and it's so beautiful. So we have, okay, and then we're going to go back to this C minor 7 in the progression, or this E flat 6, and I'm going to just go ahead and keep creeping on up the guitar neck. So I'm going to go, okay, and I'm actually going to go ahead and just play out of this E flat 6 shape right here. And I'm going to go ahead and pick the melody note that exists in the song. Why not? Nothing wrong with playing the melody, right? And I'm going to go ahead and throw in that 6 right there. Now you can leave the root down in the chord. It's just whatever you want. Sounds pretty. And then what I do from here is I throw in like a little Jimmy Weibel lick where I play, or a version of a Jimmy Weibel lick. Let's see, what's the kind of, that's a really pretty lick. Or you could, okay, so all together that's, okay, and that's all over My Heart Is Sad and Lonely, For You I Sigh, all that stuff, right? That's and that's just one little thing. You know, you could actually take that up the scale. So you could start on different inversions of these chords and play around with different things that you get from that. You could drop it all together and do something new. It's so infinite in its possibilities. It's pretty incredible. So I'll play it one more time for you just so you can see it. It's a pretty thing. So now you don't have to use necessarily Barry Harris's scales of chords in this moment, or you don't have to use, you know, the Jimmy Weibel stuff that I'm playing with, doing the two-line improvisation stuff. What, you know, at the end of the day, what I really want this video to do is to spark something in you that goes, oh, okay, you know, I'll come up with my own idea based off of that, right? So Anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed this. I'm really enjoying making these. These sure are fun to do, and it's always fun to share with everybody. So have a great week, and I'll talk to y'all very soon. Thanks so much.